So the thing about being addicted to things like anger or outrage or any of those negative emotions is that this is not a rational thing. It is not rational to be addicted to negativity, to constantly be looking for negativity in your life and to need it when it's not there. You need that negativity to feed the addiction, because what happens when people get addicted to certain emotions, and yes, people do get addicted to emotions, is every time they have that emotion, the brain floods the body with different hormones and different little chemicals to actually make the body physically feel the emotions that it's experiencing in the brain. Now, what happens when you take away the things that are causing those negative emotions? I see this in the workplace all the time. So what happens is if an employee hates their boss is causing all this stress and anxiety in their lives, and the employee's constantly riled up like, oh, my boss hates me, I have the worst boss ever, whatever. The boss then goes on vacation for a week. The problem is no longer there. For the first couple days, the employee's feeling great. They're like, this is the best thing ever. The boss is gone. I can finally focus on my work. I don't have to be stressed out anymore. But then on like the third day, what starts happening is the employee starts looking for reasons to be upset and creating problems where no problem previously existed before. Why? Because they're addicted to those negative emotions, and the body is like, come on, brain, we had a good thing. You got stressed out or pissed off. I got a little hit of those hormones that you keep feeding me. We had a good thing going here. So the body is like desperate for its fix. And when it does that, it sends signals to the brain like, you better give me that fix, which means you better find something to be upset over. And then we start creating problems where there is no previous problem there. I've seen this happen all the time. And so when I look at this article from NPR, remote work is leading to more gender and racial harassment, says tech workers. I think we've got a group of people that are looking for something to be upset about, because how in God's name are you experiencing more harassment when you're working out of your house? How? The harassment is coming inside the house. Let's take a look at this article. I promise this is not an April Fool's Day thing. I promise. Look, March 30th. This was published 2 days ago. Tech workers say they have experienced more harassment based on gender, age, and race or ethnicity while working remotely during the pandemic, according to a survey from a nonprofit group that advocates for diversity in Silicon Valley. Oh, I'm sure this group advocating for diversity has no other reason to report that people are experiencing increased harassment due to working from home. These increases were highest among women, transgender and non-binary people, and Asian, Black, Latinx, and Indigenous people. Basically everyone except white men. For example, more than 1 in 4 respondents said they experienced more gender-based harassment. That figure increased when race and gender identity were accounted for to 39% of Asian women and non-binary people, 38% of Latinx women and non-binary people, and 42% of transgender people. Why? Question. Why are women and non-binary people being categorized together? Oh, because everyone else is a man. The survey of nearly 3,000 people around the country was conducted between May and February by Project Include, an advocacy group founded by Ellen Powell. Powell is a tech advisor who in 2012 sued her then employer, the venture capital firm Kleiner Perkins, over gender discrimination. She lost that lawsuit, and has since become a leading advocate for diversity in tech. Powell said she wanted to do the survey when she heard in the pandemic about people complaining of more harassment at work, even though they were no longer in the office. Okay, we are halfway into this article, and no one has yet explained how these people are experiencing more harassment while they're working from home. There's the assumption that once everybody went separately and you were protected in your own home, that you wouldn't see the same level of harassment, she said. It turned out that actually wasn't the case. A definition. Harassment, in the survey's definition, includes behavior such as yelling, uncomfortable or repeated questions about identity and appearance, and requests for dates or sex. I don't believe any of these things. I'm sorry. No, I don't. Dude, I have worked in organizations a very, very, very long time. I do not believe this survey for one red second. Not one red. You're telling me that when you're working from home and most people are communicating via email or Slack, that you're experiencing an increased amount of yelling? I don't believe you. You're lying. You're telling me when you're working from home, and by the way, most people when they're on Zoom calls, when they're on work Zoom calls, they don't even turn their cameras on. They don't, like, everyone's so sick of Zoom and like WebEx and all these virtual meetings, they don't even turn their cameras on. And you're telling me that they've seen an increase in uncomfortable or repeated questions about identity or appearance? I don't believe you. You're lying to create problems where no problem existed before. Workers' survey also reported increases in workplace hostility, defined as behavior that is less abusive than harassment but may not break company rules, but still creates a harmful environment. Okay? Like, so what does it mean? What is, like, less than harassment but and not breaking rules? But like, what does that mean? Dude, workplace bullying is defined. I can pull up a list of things right now that will define workplace bullying. Why can't you define what you're talking about here? Women of color were most likely to report increased race-based hostility, including 45% of women who identified as African, African American, or Black, and 30% of women who describe themselves as Asian or Asian American, not Asian American Pacific Islander, I noticed. Also, 14% of respondents reported increased age-based harassments for younger age or older. Powell said the survey responses suggest that some of the increase in harassment and hostility may be the result of people working longer hours, the blurring of boundaries between work and life, and more conversations where other office mates aren't present as witnesses. You can record every conversation. What are you talking about? When you're working in virtual environments, you can literally record every single conversation. It's all email, Slack, WebEx, phone, I suppose, but you can record that too. There's more one-on-one interaction when you're not in the office, Powell said. People are seeing more harassment on chat and on email and on video conferencing. All of those things you can record. Provide evidence. Every single one of those things can be documented. This is such nonsense. Dude, I have executed so many employee engagement surveys. Like, I'm sorry. I know that I'm about to say a lived experience, but I can smell bullshit when I see it. Many of these software tools remote workers rely on, such as video chat and messaging apps, were not designed to mitigate harassment, says Caroline Cinders, a researcher who studies online harassment and worked on Project Include's survey. For example, they may not have easy ways built in to flag inappropriate behavior or content and report it to managers or human resources. Take a fucking screenshot! This is not hard. This is, of all the times, I have been studying workplace bullying for like 15 goddamn years. Of all the times that I have been studying hostile and toxic work environments, right now, in this moment, is the easiest to document all of this because everything is taking place in the cloud. The survey also showed an increase in anxiety overall as people have shifted to working from home. A whopping 85% of people said they were more anxious. Nearly 2/3 reported working longer hours. Yes, that's your own fault. I'm sorry. Like, if you're working from home, you've got to set up boundaries. You've got to commit to those boundaries. If you are working longer hours, that means you have to take responsibility to structure your life in a way where you are not working longer hours. At a time when many tech companies have said they will allow people to keep working remotely at least some of the time, Powell says workers need more specific guidelines. She also recommends giving workers more flexibility in how and when they work, and she said companies need to confront problems that existed before the pandemic, but could have been exacerbated in the last year. It's time for companies to address all the harms that they've caused by bias, by racism, by sexism, by transphobia. How do we actually get to the roots of these problems? It's not by giving people a wellness app. God forbid. God forbid. Actually, you know what? That last sentence, that right there does actually tell you the solution. Give your employees mindfulness apps. Give them meditation apps. There are wonderful mindfulness and meditation apps out there that have done wonders in work environments. And I'm not going to name them because, like, one in particular I'm thinking of, I think I might get them in trouble if I endorse them. But there are many apps out there that can help people out with this stuff. And what exactly what they need is a mindfulness app. These people who are addicted to outrage, who are addicted to seeing aggression, seeing harassment, seeing abuse, seeing harm in every single interaction that they have, mindfulness is exactly what they need in order to shift their perspective, to break the addiction to the negative emotions that they have. I'll tell you what, man. One of the things I am most worried about in this entire scenario, one of the reasons I'm pretty black-pilled on this whole situation, is there is no way to fix an outrage addiction when people do not want to fix it for themselves. When they are committed to maintaining that outrage addiction, there's nothing I can do to fix it. There's nothing you can do to fix it. People have to want to change themselves. And if we have an entire population of people that is addicted to outrage, and they don't want to change it, then it ain't gonna change. It doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter how much I fight. It doesn't matter how many laws we pass. It doesn't matter. None of that matters unless people make the concerted commitment to break the outrage addiction that they have. That's it. That's the only thing that's gonna change anything. So I don't know what to say, man. Like, this is entirely the result of addiction to outrage. This is not real. This is not real. This is entirely because of an outrage addiction. It's entirely based on individual perception. And if it was real, they would have provided documentation and more clear-cut examples of how exactly people are experiencing increased harassment when they're working out of their own GD home. All right, that's all I've got for this one. That's all I've got. Listen, folks, if you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel. I do content almost every single day of the week, except for I usually take the weekends off, around news, politics, culture, a lot of social justice nonsense, basically anything I find interesting. If you want to support my work, you can subscribe, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, share it out to your friends. One of the very best things you can do to support my work is by joining my locals community, which is kb.locals.com. The information is right below me. Also, connect with me on sites that are not YouTube. I'm on Odyssey, I'm on Rockfin, I'm on Minds, I'm on all these different places, and also on Locals. You get all my videos ad-free. So that's really why I like to get people into my locals community. It is the nicest place on the internet where we won't be censored or banned or any of these things. That's all I've got for right now. I'll see you soon.